The Craic is back, ladies and gentlemen, and I am excited. I am buzzing. Combat sports is flowing through my veins and out my eyeballs looking at you because a lot of things have happened. Once again, we have been blessed with a lot of activity for this Craic show today. Of course, the crackheads will already know. Tom Aspinall has signed a management deal with Eddie Hearn. They had a press conference earlier today in Battersea. A few more things have come to life from there, but we have the guts of the story. Of course, Ariel Helwani was on Boys in the Back yesterday, breaking it all down for everyone, but we are very excited to speak about all this. A lot of dynamic shifts going on in combat sports at the moment. Oh yeah, if that wasn't enough for you, guess who parted ways with the PFL today? Yeah, now you got it. It's Francis Ngannou. Now the most lucrative free agent in the sport, you'd believe. Ariel has said that he expects things to happen very quickly there, and I am excited to hear it. I just hope it doesn't happen in the midst of the show. Well, maybe it'd be better if it happens in the midst of the show, not directly afterwards, which has happened on a number of weeks in 2026 so far. Still, a lot of things going to happen this weekend. Dana White is claiming that we will have the White House card tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow, that's quite a significant day for MMA fans as well, because it's UFC 326, the BMF title, everyone's favorite title. Everyone's favorite title, the BMF title. I cannot wait to sink my teeth into all of these factoids and news items today. I'm very excited. And I'm very excited to say that I'm joined by the great Chuck Mindenhall and the amazing Ben Fowlkes. And Chuck, we thought we were going to have to double barrel this today, didn't we? We were very worried that a certain big time member of the team could not make it here today. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I mean, you use the word gallivanting usually when you're describing Ben Fowlkes, and it appears he's off gallivanting again. Am I right, Ben?
This is what it looks like. This is what gallivanting looks like. Soak it in, you know. Look, I'm over here in this Boston hotel room. Look at the snacks. There they are. Well, okay. There you go.
It's very confusing.
Hey, guys, those are free snacks. Those are on the house.
Wow.
So
that doesn't happen.
It's unusual.
When you're big time Ben Fowlkes,
Well.
You roll in there, you get some Cool Ranch Doritos. Don't bother looking for them. I already ate them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see that in the stash over there.
No, look, Cool Ranch Doritos are not lasting long in a room with me. That's a given. But, obviously, with everything going on this week, I couldn't miss the Craic. Even if I have to call in here with my hotel room set up and everything, you should see the chaos that's happening on this desk just out of the frame. But there's just too much going on that I couldn't let you guys have all the fun talking about it. I gotta get in this.
I kind of want to see your setup because I've had to do this from hotel rooms before, and I'm usually stacking like a trash can with some like whatever I can find to put the camera up high enough, and it becomes like
the laptop is resting on the little like metal box that the Kleenex box goes in. So I
familiar with this
it.
technique.
I can't like reach out and touch it because it's way too shaky. It's an entirely unstable situation. We're walking the razor's edge here today. So if something goes on, just know what happened.
Well, speaking of razor's edges, boys, I mean, I don't know if you know, but Dana White and Eddie Hearn at loggerheads these days. And of course, we know Dana did the first big move, and we celebrated this wild piece of news when he signed Conor Benn to Zuffa Boxing, even though he's fighting on the ring card, even though Sella is paying him. We don't need to get into the details. It feels like Eddie and Tom, to some extent, have struck back yesterday. And we get the news. We get this press conference. I will read you some items from the press conference. I'm not going to read the entire press conference because they top-loaded it with a lot of information about this new talent agency. But now that we've established what that is, let me just get you to the meat and potatoes of this bad boy. And the new journey begins today across sport and entertainment as Matchroom Talent Agency embarks on a bright new future ahead by joining forces with one of the biggest stars in the world. As megastar and reigning UFC heavyweight king, Tom Aspinall is confirmed as the first member to join its world-class talent roster, ranked in the top 10 as one of the best pound-for-pound MMA fighters on the planet. Aspinall, 32, became the first ever Briton to be crowned the UFC heavyweight champion back in 2025. Aspinall will continue working closely with his existing media and management team as Matchroom Talent Agency supports him with future key services ranging from commercial through to publishing, digital, broadcast, and legal. And Eddie Hearn is excited to officially kickstart this new Matchroom sport venture alongside the Salford-born combat fighter. I will disclose, I did not know that Tom Aspinall was from Salford. That is news to me. But here he is. Look at all these graphics we're garnishing you with here. Oh, they're all walking around Monaco, all best of friends in that tax haven that is Monaco. It's all wonderful stuff. Before I bring the boys in, we should probably hear what Dana White had to say about this. He was asked at the UFC 326 press conference last night. Someone said, "Look, how is this going to work, man?" I believe it was Oscar Willis. Like, how is this going to work? You two don't really like each other. Here's what Dana had to say.
We don't have any issues with Eddie. They can get whoever they want to represent him. Tito Ortiz used to represent people, and we got it done.
There you go. He is. They did.
And Tito's on the
people.
same intellectual plane as Eddie, though. You know, that just seems like
Both
eating
great
babies.
talkers. Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting hearing that from Dana White so soon after we've heard these court depositions where you have all these people being like, Dana White doesn't do any of this anymore.
Right.
He doesn't do matchmaking. He doesn't do contract talks. All these people saying like, all right, yeah, when you're having these kinds of talks with the UFC, it's probably Hunter Campbell. It's probably not Dana White. He hasn't done it in years, not really involved. And so, I don't know, makes it so that you're kind of inclined to believe, yeah, it wouldn't be an issue, not because Dana White is so diplomatic and he can work with you even if you don't personally get along, but just because he doesn't seem like he's involved in that aspect of the business, at least to hear them tell it under oath. So you'd hope they'd be telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, look, can we not like put that at the very front? Because we wanted to let our minds wander here, Ben, and think about all of the crazy situations. And, you know, have you followed the order of the list?
Let the fish run, you know.
I have sent you the list, okay? Don't bury the lead like this, okay? What I'm trying to say is,
next thing you know, I'm going to start telling funny anecdotes, even though that's way down
the
here
last
at the bottom of the
section.
list.
That's at the end, Ben.
That is at the very end in the ad hoc section, okay? Let's not get into the funny anecdotes just yet. But look, all valid points made by Ben, to be completely fair. But can I ask, Chuck, like, what is your initial reaction to seeing Aspinall and Eddie Hearn standing there side by side, all lovey-dovey?
Well, I mean, it seemed like a chess move, right? Like you see something like this and like, okay, well, if we were expecting a response, I don't think anybody was expecting that, but that's the response that we got. Let me ask you guys this: if Zuffa Boxing doesn't come in, swoop in, and get Conor Benn, do we see this happen? Does this materialize? Is there a situation where Eddie Hearn is hooking up with Aspinall, or was it born of that? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the question I have.
I feel like, and maybe Ben, you might disagree with this. I feel like Eddie's always had a thing for Tom in terms of one thing Hearn is unbelievable at is building UK talent. He's done it with Katie Taylor, of course, from Ireland as well, but he's really made Conor Benn the commodity that the Zuffa Boxing have gone after here. Like look at Anthony Joshua. Like he is a huge star in all over the world now after the Jake Paul fight, but that is something he can specifically do. He's mentioned Tom Aspinall a lot before all this, but if I'm being honest, and Eddie Hearn actually did speak to IFL afterwards. IFL directly asked him, like, you know, does Tom feel like a pawn in this? And he said, honestly, he said that to me. Like, am I just a pawn in this game that you're playing with Dana White? And Eddie said, you know, a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, but he does think that the commercial value is heavily lopsided towards the UFC. And it's also giving him away, right? We heard last week about Frank Smith and Queensbury suing Sella for essentially letting them in the back door and see how contracts are built and stuff like this. A part of me thinks like it's a stroke of genius from Eddie to be his talent advisor. He's saying to IFL, I've seen all these contracts. I see how they are built. I see everything that they're doing. It kind of feels like a stroke of genius in that sense, but I do believe that Benn signing was definitely the catalyst for Tom and Eddie combining like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Tom being a little bit of a pawn here. You could argue that Conor Benn was a little bit of a pawn too, but if you're a pawn for $15 million, you probably feel okay about that. You know, you probably feel like that's work that can work for me. And like, especially the way Zuffa Boxing really rushed to announce, hey, we have signed him, and it was only later that we realized you've
Right.
signed him with somebody else's money to fight on somebody else's fight card. And when they put the poster out, they don't even put your name on it. They don't even put your logo on there. So yeah, like that very much seems like they were trying to use Conor Benn as a pawn. And so Eddie Hearn come back and be like, all right, let me see if I can get Tom Aspinall as a pawn. And if it works out for Tom Aspinall, then you think, okay, maybe it's worth it to take a side in this fight. It is an interesting way for Eddie Hearn to sort of like get in the back door there and be like, let me take a look at all these contracts. Let me see how you guys do it. Now that you guys are over here in boxing, seeing how we do it, it is interesting to see how all that plays out. It is also sort of like the part that I worry a little bit for Tom about is if the UFC and especially Dana White perceives themselves as being at war with Eddie Hearn, and you do this, which is kind of you declaring a side in that war, and it's not the
Yes.
UFC's side, but you're still under contract to the UFC. And we have seen in a lot of different ways fighters over the years where you don't want to get in a situation where you spend the prime of your career, the top peak earning period of your career, battling with the UFC. We've seen a bunch of fighters do it when they're champions or when they're right there, pre or post championship. They, for some reason, somebody digs in their heels over something and they're fighting with the UFC, and all it really ever does is hurt the fighter and hurt their earnings. And instead of hurting the UFC, they always just sort of feel like, this is why we kind of wanted to make you guys somewhat interchangeable, is so that if we do have a problem with one of you, the machine rolls on just fine. That's the part that I kind of worry for Tom, is because the UFC probably going to see that as Tom signing with the enemy.
Yeah. There's like, if you talk to Andy, which I know that PT you have, and you talk to his camp, it's not, it's not like something that's a secret that there's a disgruntled flavor coming out of this, especially when he's
Yes.
saying things like, you know what, man, I really love fighting, but I cannot stand any of the rest of this. And you get a guy who comes in, and you kind of went down the list of interests that that he'll be that Eddie Hearn will be handling, and one of them was legal. And I'm like, that's always one of these things that you wonder, as you kind of like read the tea leaves early in something like this, where you're like, okay, what is going to happen? Because you do, like what Ben was kind of alluding to, you remember the Randy Coutures, who was a champion at the time and fought the UFC, and I think spent $500,000 of own money trying to put himself in a better situation, get the fight he wanted, get more pay, all that stuff, and ends up signing a 3-fight contract in the end. I don't know exactly what Tom Aspinall's current situation is and how it'll what happens if somehow he gets stripped of his title, and what the ramifications. But it's good to have a business guy on your side who understands kind of the manipulations of the fight game, even within the UFC. I mean, that's a little bit of a wrinkle that Eddie Hearn would bring to the situation. And I will say this too, like he's very good at kind of what would you say, rebuilding or resurrecting a fighter who might be down.
Yes.
Right now, Tom Aspinall is maybe like at the lowest in terms of the way people are seeing him. Half the people are seeing him as, oh, he's trying to get out of there. You did that piece. Look at the comments that come in and they blame Tom for whatever. Hearn's done a great job of just kind of rebuilding the reputation of like Conor Benn, for instance, and even Anthony Joshua. Remember, he kind of kept him, above the standard. Like people perceived him the way Eddie did after a while, and I think that's an important part of this too. But it's fascinating from so many angles, just given all of this, right? Like now he's going to try to dip his toe into UFC dealings, into the contracts there and everything else. What that means ultimately, we may not find out for a while, but it is fun to think about.
Yeah, and here's another aspect, and I apologize in advance, but also not really if I'm skipping ahead on the
Oh my God.
itinerary here.
Oh, no need to apologize. We jump all
It's
over
nothing
this thing.
sacred anymore.
But okay, so you can imagine a situation already the way things were headed with Tom kind of sidelined, had the double eye surgery, still in recovery mode from that. No imminent return seems at all near possible right now. And so the UFC, and looking to put together this White House card, might be in a situation of, hey, it'd be nice to have a heavyweight title that we could throw on there, a couple guys that might be able to fight for something like that. And then you might be in a situation where, are you thinking about an interim belt, or are you thinking about stripping the champion because you're going, hey, if he's out for a long time, take the belt off of him. And he would have just had to kind of sit there and take it. And people would say, well, what are you going to do, man? If you can't see and you can't fight, how long can you sit on the title? If it happens right now, after he's just announced, I have signed with Eddie Hearn, it's hard to then turn around and strip the title from him without it looking at least a little bit retaliatory,
Yes.
for the UFC. If they might have already been planning to do it, they might have already had like an idea of how they want to approach that situation, and this just throws a wrinkle in it. But at least now you kind of have a visible, vocal advocate who can speak up for you and at least make the case, hey, did the UFC just take the heavyweight title away from the heavyweight champion because they don't like his manager, basically? And
Petesy. Yeah, I was going to ask Petesy specifically because you know Andy, right? And like Tom has had a very untraditional, career to this point because he
Yes.
uses his dad for his business side of things too, which is a very difficult thing to do and to navigate. But is this necessary, almost like the kind of complex waters that he finds himself in terms of maybe what's to happen? Do you think he needs some kind of professional representation this way? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
even if he is a pawn in this, but do you think that was just a necessary move or an inevitable move?
I think can't imagine Andy not being involved still in the negotiation process. Like, he has done a really great job for Tom. I was around there. I saw how he's living. Like, it's rare for an MMA fighter to have a kind of life like that, as we know from covering the sport for very long. But he is, of course, the champion of the world. This is what we expect people to have to some degree. I just think I really believe Andy would still be involved, but I think having Matchroom there with him, and whether that means Eddie or not, I'd imagine it will mean Eddie based on what he's been saying so far. But as Ben said earlier on, it might not be Dana he's talking to, because as we learned from the hearings, it's all Hunter now. But I do feel as though, especially in terms of that legal thing you brought up, I think that's very interesting. And especially with all this talk of stripping and vacation, this is me just pie in the sky kind of just trying to think my way around this. Like, Tom's a champion. There's obviously a championship clause there and everything like that. What happens if they did decide to hit the nuclear option and say, oh, we are no longer champion? Does the championship clause still apply then? Like, does he have those extra fights tagged on that we used to always see back in the day with these different fights? I think there's a lot of things that could happen. But I will say, I just wanted to bring this up, and I should say that this is before the announcement came out, this Pierce Morgan interview with Dana White happened. But I did notice, and again, before this news with Matchroom broke, I did notice a change in tone from Dana pertaining to Tom Aspinall. It's almost like he's falling over himself to be like, he is the champion. He is the champion. He obviously, I'll let the video speak for itself.
Tom Aspinall. He was your heavyweight champion. He's recovering from double eye surgery.
He is my heavyweight champion. Yeah.
What is the situation with Tom?
Yeah, the company has talked to him. I haven't talked to him, and Tom and I obviously need to talk. He came out recently, or his dad too, saying that they felt like I don't know how they said it, but that I had sort of shit on him in the way that I had spoke about his eye injury, which was absolutely positively not the case. Tom Aspinall is a guy that I respect. He's been great, to work with. Never once did I question his injury or speak negatively about it. I said, I think he's okay, and I think he's going to be good. And they came out and said, no, that's not the case. He said, I haven't even talked to Dana. I don't know why he would say that. But, obviously my medical team is talking to him, and that was what I had thought. And they thought that I had knocked him in some way, which I absolutely positively didn't and wouldn't. I like him very much and respect him. I've never had a problem with Tom Aspinall.
Do you think he'll fight again?
I do.
Is that from conversations his team have had with your team?
Well, he's still dealing with whatever's going on with his eyes, and obviously over the last 30 years of being in this business, I've seen, injuries that I questioned whether guys would come back from, and they always have, including eye pokes. Who knows? But if you ask me, sitting right here, right now, do I think Tom Aspinall will compete again? I would say yes.
Is it fair to say that he's changed his tune a bit there, boys?
Yeah, I mean, the part that's not surprising, I guess, is Dana White will get a little revisionist history, especially being like, oh, people are saying that I shit on Tom or questioned the eye injury, and that's absolutely not true. I'm going to read you the quote from Dana White right after this whole thing happened. I can't make people fight. And you definitely can't make somebody continue if they feel they've been injured. Only Tom knows what happened. Could he see? Couldn't he see? Could he continue? Only he knows that. I mean, you're not exactly really
Literally
supporting
shit
the
on
guy.
Tom.
Like, especially when you start it with, I can't make people fight.
Yeah.
That does suggest that you thought he could have fought through that, that you thought
Right.
he made a decision to stop rather than being forced to stop by the fact that he couldn't see and his eyes were so messed up he needed surgery on both eyes. You need both eyes. And so, like, for him to go back now and be like, it's absolutely not true that I said anything about it. It's like, you did, though. You kind of did. And maybe he thinks, like, that he didn't mean it like that. Saying, I can't make the guy fight sounds like he kind of did mean it like that. Maybe once you see the severity of it later, you kind of want to change your tune on it a little bit. I was interested where he was just like, well, hey, my medical team has been talking to the guy. Because, Petesy, when I was reading your story, I didn't get the sense that there was much conversation at all between anybody on Team Aspinall and anybody on Team UFC going back and forth.
The impression I was given when I was there, well, I was told directly, like the UFC kept saying things like, let us know if you need anything. And they're like, well, we're seeing a doctor, like we're trying to figure out when we're gonna have surgery. And then when I was there, I believe it was a Tuesday I was there, I asked Andy, I was down in the gym with Andy for a bit. And Andy was like, I just told him on Friday, like he's having this double eye surgery on Tuesday, pretty much. You know, like that's the way it's kind of going. In terms of whether they've been feeding back medical documents and stuff like that, I think they're aware of the situation he's dealing with. Um, I just think it's interesting that it's like this change of tune or not. Maybe I should talk to him. Like one thing that I know for sure is like if Hearn had this happen to one of his guys, he's not leaving the hospital. He's speaking to the media as much as he can to express how bad the situation is. I just feel it's very interesting that suddenly he wanted to talk to him. And again, this was before the Matchroom news broke. Like I feel like that almost suggests that he wanted to rework something. He wanted to make something happen. Like he was like, okay, let's correct the course here a little bit. I need to speak to Tom. We're going to sort this out. But now I'm like, I see him talking at the press conference. He's like, I have no problem talking with these guys. I think he's playing it great, by the way. I think if he came out and he was like, well, fuck this and fuck Tom, blah, 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 I think that would go very badly. I personally like the way he's playing this. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
It's always one of those things you're like, how's he going to respond? And so he responds with, oh, what are you talking about, Eddie? No, come on. We like Eddie. It's like, hey, we dealt with Tito. Come on, for Christ's sake. You know, it's one of those. It's like it's actually the right way to do it. Because if he's all pissed off, right, like it feels like you're giving in to something. If that was the counter move, then you're giving into it.
And Eddie kind of gave that to him with the Ben thing, right? Like Ben, he was so candid
Yeah.
in that interview in his hotel room. He was like, you broke my heart.
Right.
I'm devastated. I'm absolutely devastated by this. How do you think he really feels, Ben? Dana?
You know, I think that Dana can tell himself, I think he can talk himself into a lot of different things. Like he can, when he says something like, hey, I never said anything about Tom. I never questioned that injury. I think he can get to a point where he believes that now. Because it's easy to see now when the guy's been out for so long, you have to have surgery. It's easy to now see the severity of it. In the immediate aftermath of those kind of fights, the same situation. Remember when GSP kind of sort of retired in the cage after the Johnny Hendricks fight, announced he was stepping away? I was at that one, and Dana White showed up at the press conference afterwards so mad, livid.
Incensed.
His head changed color. He was yelling so much. And people went, okay, wait, did you talk to George and get a sense of what's going on with him, why he wants to step away? And Dana said, no, haven't talked to him at all. Just heard what you guys all heard out there. And we kind of went, don't you think maybe you should before you come in here and just call him all sorts of names and yell about him all this time? Maybe isn't it worth a conversation? And then he did have a conversation with him later and came back and was like, okay, it's not that big a deal. It's going to be okay. And we were kind of like, see, this is what you could have done before. But I think he can kind of like reverse engineer his way to that sort of a position, really, and then feel like, I never said anything. I was always on the guy's side. I also think that, you know, there's enough different pieces at play here that he might feel like you don't know how all the knuckleballs are going to break just yet. So it's better to be somewhere in the middle.
With all the like this right this second, right? Like you got all these heavyweights that are basically tied to each other through like the lineage of the the division, and they scatter. But like you get Francis Ngannou, right, who leaves the first big hole by leaving the UFC, John Jones, and then he comes in and he doesn't fight Aspinall, and so you get none of the fights. Doesn't it? I mean, it just seems like that division specifically, when they get to the top, have this kind of like tough deal. Like it becomes a problem for the UFC to deal with them, and I was going to add, like in general, like when you look at like Ngannou, for instance, and we are talking about Couture, do you think that like essentially, do you foresee, I guess, that there's going to be a problem? Does this end badly? Because once it becomes on like one, it already seemed like it was on that course anyway, but like with Aspinall and just kind of like, I'd rather be boxing type of attitude. And now you've got a guy who's a boxing promoter representing you. Does it just seem like we're destined to have like major problems sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing hanging over all of this kind of is the White House card, what we're going to do if we're going to try to come up with a heavyweight fight for that, featuring John Jones and Alex Pereira, most likely. Like, what do you do there? Because like, if you have plans for that involves some version of a UFC heavyweight title, then it can kind of throw everything else into some sort of temporary chaos. Especially because if it involves John Jones at all, that's a guy who has already just been retired, already shown you he will take off that heavyweight title and walk away from it. So what does that do? Like, the other variable in all this is that as a whole, heavyweight right now is garbage. Outside of like the top three or so names, it's been like that for a while, where you've had basically two divisions, where you had a division where there's a couple few guys at the very top and then everybody else. And it's very hard for the people who are in the everybody else category to bridge that gap and go into being the elite guys. And right now you look at heavyweight and, you're firing guys who just look disappointing. Meanwhile, some other guys can lose a whole bunch of fights, stay in the rankings. There's just not a whole lot that seems like it doesn't seem like it's a division that has a whole lot of talent coming up right now. And so when you already have this sort of like potential for chaos at the top, and then you throw in that there's nothing else really to do if you lose one or two of these guys from the title picture for some reason, it maybe makes those guys feel like they have a stronger negotiating position.
He has the box clever, I feel, with this situation, because the thing that Eddie does that no other manager does is he's in front of every camera in the world all the time. Like you can't, like you go onto YouTube, you type Eddie Hearn's name in any day, he's done an interview with someone, and it's a massive headline. Like he's not just going through the motions; he is giving these people news all the time. I guess like if they so the options here seem to be like vacate the title, strip him of the title. I even see people saying cut Tom Aspinall or just leave it as it is. I think even if it's a vacate situation, Eddie's going to be everywhere, dragging the UFC at every boxing event he's at. I think it pressures him in a different way. I think cutting him would be crazy because obviously Netflix are out there. All these other guys can suddenly have a bounty on their hands with Aspinall as a free agent.
Imagine all of a sudden you can get Ngannou and
Exactly.
and Aspinall outside of the UFC. That would be ridiculous.
But what do you, Chuck? What would you say is going to happen here? Things just stay the same, and they go ahead and do what they want for an interim at the White House, or
well, I feel. I mean,
feeling?
we'll know, I guess, in less than 36 hours or so, what the White House plans are. My feeling is that they're going to do John Jones, right? Like this is what the tea leaves have produced, and I think that also like you see Alex Pereira taking the actions to be in that fight. So you could make that fight without any real stake to it, right? Because it's even from John Jones' perspective, it's like, hey, I'm all about my legacy at this point. That's why I don't want to fight Aspinall. So why not just do it that way? But I don't get the sense that that's how they want to roll. They want a 5-round, something attached to it. That's why there's a BMF title this weekend, right? Like they want something attached to this. And in that case, I would guess that it's going to be for the interim title. But as Ben said, this is so complicated. I don't ever remember a situation that's quite this complicated, because do they have assurances through this whole like negotiation process with John Jones and retrusting of him and stuff like that, that he will stick around and defend the belt if he wins it, or not defend the belt, but unify the title this time? Because that's the only way I would dangle that if I'm from the UFC's perspective. So it's a complicated situation, but I can't imagine if he's actually fighting Alex Pereira, and Pereira too, going up, in weight to do this. It feels like there has to be a title attached to that.
Yeah, but I mean, I could see if you're especially trying to create this big special thing at the White House, do you want to have that little interim word sticking out there? Maybe they figure, hey, we're playing to a general audience here that doesn't really think too much about those words. If they can hear the words heavyweight championship of the world, they won't hear any other, and so it doesn't matter. We can throw the interim thing in there. We can put a little asterisk next to it.
Wait for Eddie's response. I'm going to hang up and listen for Eddie's response after that. That would.
You can imagine them doing something like that, but also you could see how you're trying to put on this big show. You want it to mean everything it can possibly mean. You would want to be able to just go out there and say, this is the heavyweight championship of the world.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. I did also like Chad's show on the co-main event this weekend, where he just suggested that there would be a Donald Trump title on the line.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe you introduce it to that, right? The All-American, title or whatever.
So I mean, somebody wrote into our live chat to be like, okay, look, all you got to do is get out something called the President's Cup, heavyweight President's Cup, middleweight President's Cup. All this, everybody can go home with a cup. All of these can officially be some kind of title fights. I mean,
that'd be cool.
That's completely out of the question, honestly.
That would be cool, man.
Honestly, love it.
Holding the cup, yes.
Final one, right, lads? Just a little bit of fun one. If they live streamed Eddie Hearn negotiating with the UFC, be it Hunter Campbell or Dana White, they live streamed it and they were in the same room. It's not a Zoom call. They're in the same room. How much money would you be willing to pay to watch that? Because let me tell you, the pay-per-view price here, it's about 30 quid usually. I'd pay 200 quid to watch that. Honestly, I would watch 200 euro.
We've been dying to eavesdrop on these conversations. Why wouldn't you want to be on that?
That's what I was saying. Is I would pay to listen to kind of anybody. Almost any fight. I mean, I think you'd be disappointed with a lot of them. A lot of these managers, you'd hear what they go in there with and the degree to which they are not willing to stand up for their clients, and I think that it would be disappointing. But yeah, I would definitely just want to hear how that conversation goes.
Let's do another one of those Mick Maynard
we already had it on this show, the way it plays out. You know what I mean? You brought it to life.
I still get a little teary-eyed thinking about Ben's performance that night. That was good.
Yeah, man. I mean, no, you got to give me more warning before I do one of those, because I got to get in character. I got to find the emotional center of the character.
Okay, next time. Speaking of negotiations, boys, we got a little bit of breaking news today, and the one and only Ariel Helwani gave us the lowdown on Francis Ngannou becoming a free agent.
Francis Ngannou and the PFL have parted ways. So Francis Ngannou is no longer a PFL fighter. He is gone, and he is free to sign with anyone as of right this moment. Obviously, this is a huge story. He was a massive signing for them back in 23 and only fought once. Now, when he signed with them, you may recall, it was first the signing. It was the signing that came out in May of 23. But then he announced afterwards, later that summer, like 2 months later, that he was going to fight Tyson Fury. So he never actually fought for them until October of 2024. He had one fight left on his deal. It was either get that one fight in or the term of the contract expiring. He told us that very recently. So that was coming up in the next few months. And so both sides just decided to walk away. Francis Ngannou just doesn't fit who the PFL is in 2026. I think the narrative might be like, oh, this was a mistake. Well, mistake for who? Was it a mistake for Francis? No. Francis got paid more for that fight against Renan Ferreira, that one fight, versus his last fight against Cyril was probably like 5x, if not more. Plus, there was no exclusivity attached to it. He got paid a hell of a lot to fight Tyson Fury. He got paid a hell of a lot to fight Anthony Joshua. And he got paid a hell of a lot to fight Renan Ferreira. I suspect we'll be hearing about Francis's next move in short order. I see some people speculating that he's going to sign with Eddie Hearn. I don't think that's the case. I think we'll find out what his next move is, and I think that the timing of this announcement was, smart on the PFL's part in the sense of like you want to get ahead of the story, so to speak.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. I feel like it's gonna break while we're doing the show, but we'll see.
It could absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing, right? He left the UFC. He made a shit ton of money. Like, I know people are looking like, oh, Francis, he didn't deliver for PFL, and that might be true, but he delivered for himself. He made a lot of fucking money, and that's the name of the game here. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. He had the fight with Henan Ferreira, but I guess, Chuck, is this an L for PFL?
I mean, it looks like one in the end because he fought in what, 3 years, almost 3 years. He fought 3 minutes, 3 minutes and change. What a single round. What's that? What a 3 minutes they were, though. It's like I was figuring it up because I did a column today. Like, if you kind of go off of the rough estimates of what he made for that fight, it was $47,000 per second he spent in the PFL cage, which is not bad work if you can get that. So I think that from a perspective of a fan, though, right? Like, from a perspective of Ngannou was like, you know what? With the UFC, I had no freedom. He goes over to PFL and he has an ultimate freedom, essentially, because he went and he boxed for, easily 8 figures on these fights, huge fights. And obviously, like, he really earned the second one by showing up for the first one and almost shocking the world against Tyson Fury. You got it. We did this many times where you're like, you give him his flowers because, man, that was just an incredible thing. He became a part of the imagination of the boxing world at that point in time too, just way above and beyond what we thought. He comes back and he fights that fight for PFL, and now for 18 months or whatever it is, he's just been gone. And like, now it's just the clock ticks away and there's no Francis Ngannou. I think from a fan's perspective, it's anticlimactic if you were hoping that he would perform with like one fight in 3 years for a guy that when he's sent off, you're still hoping to see more of him because he's so vital. In fact, we're calling him, and I don't even know if you could still argue this, that he's the best heavyweight in the world, right? Like, so
you could probably make that argument, yeah.
Yeah, you could make that argument, even though he's 39 at this point in time. But like, that's where he left off, and I think that it's certainly fair for the fans themselves to be like, man, this sucks. Now, is it his fault? I know Ant Evans is out there somewhere right now. Like, I told you,
Ant
guys,
Evans
man,
texted me today
Ant
saying,
Evans
can I come
there.
on the show for my victory
He should have come on the show because from his perspective, this is a dude who's impossible to do business with. Just as Dana White has said, basically, like, that he's very hard to get in that cage. And I'm like, okay, the truth of the matter is, if you want to take that lens to it and you want to look through that lens, like, okay, you could make that case probably because otherwise we would have seen him at some point, right? But it wasn't just that. It was like, there were huge promises that felt like they were just left impending for this whole thing where he's like, my opponents, we got to guarantee that they're getting $2 million to get in there against me. And, he's going to be like this big ambassador of Africa. I didn't really feel like that took, like, it wasn't the South Africa event. He wasn't even at the one that happened down in South Africa. Like, his one fight happened in Saudi Arabia. It just felt like a lot of what I think was promised when this deal was signed in 2023 didn't really become the case. The greatest things that happened were all in his favor. He had the freedom to go make a ton of money in the boxing ring, and he kind of wowed the fight world in that way. But if you take that out of it, just about anything else, especially from the MMA perspective, it left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it, though, is who in the PFL were you dying to see him fight?
I mean, that was a huge part of it, man. I mean, there was nobody.
If I start reading the names from the PFL heavyweight rankings, you're going to accuse me of making them up.
And you may not even be able to pronounce them because you've never heard them pronounced. So, all right, sure.
Ben loves the PFL.
Slim Trabilsi?
Okay.
Abraham Babley? Is that who we wanted to see him fight? Like, we don't know
Babley's
these people.
a good prospect, man.
Okay.
I wouldn't say blue chip, but light blue.
Vadim Nemkov is like the top guy over there. Was anybody out there being like, we have got to see Francis Ngannou and Vadim? Like, nobody was.
But it was
nobody was doing that.
That's part of the disappointment, though, is because you thought, oh, well, they put a $2 million tag right on whoever's going to face him. Remember, Pizza, when we were doing the Ringer MMA show, we're like, you're gonna have guys lining up, like maybe Derek Lewis when he was becoming a free agent. Instead, he was like, no, just take the UFC again. He didn't even entertain it. It seemed like so. It
much like
happen.
When they fought the first time, they also did not entertain.
Oh my god, that was one of the worst fights ever, man. But the Q never happened, right? Like, so I feel like it's one of those things that it was part of the anticlimax was just that they weren't able to sign anybody. They never brought in that piece that you're like, okay, now we're talking. You know, I thought maybe a Rico would show up there or something. It just
Yeah.
never happened.
Well, but now you got to think if Francis Ngannou is a free agent right around the time Jake Paul and MVP are putting together an
Oh.
MMA card to go over there on Netflix.
Wait. What are you suggesting?
Do some business with the big fella. I don't even care who you get. I mean, if you really want that to be a thing, right? You
Don't
really,
say you don't care though, because they could fucking get one of these guys that we were like, oh, I forgot he was alive. You know,
I'll watch him fight Butterbean at this point.
Yeah,
I don't,
that'd be-
you know,
Like-
like
he looks improved after the DDP yoga. Like he looks like he's ready to go to me.
that
Butterbean.
DDP yoga seems to be a life changer. I've seen it. The thing is, if you don't go and at least try to get Francis Ngannou for something
Yeah.
like that, then you're kind of telling us like, well, we want to spend some money and be somewhat of a attraction in this world, but we're not trying to break the bank and swing for the fences here. And yet, that is exactly what we were saying about these Netflix combat sports cards just like a week or two ago was they don't seem interested in hitting singles. They
No.
seem only interested in big fuck off tentpole events. And if you got Francis Ngannou versus someone, then
Yeah.
suddenly that goes from just being like a sort of like novelty attraction with Ronda Rousey
exactly right.
and Gina Carano to being like, okay, this
Exactly.
is super legit MMA night that you have to tune in for.
I just talked about all of this in this column I wrote because I'm like, if you add him in, right? Like, and Nikisa Badarian had teased on whatever that reality show that they're running about MVP. Like, if we get that co-main, you know, if we put that co-main together, this thing's going to be ridiculous. And I was like, who could it be other than maybe like a Francis Ngannou? And you got to remember too, this is such an untraditional model that they're running. You mentioned Butterbean. It's almost like they can anybody who's 60 years old and less, you know, or down that, you know, or younger is eligible for this as long as they fit the kind of billing that Netflix is kind of, you know, what they've been doing. It really could be anybody. It doesn't have to necessarily be some, you know, they don't have to like, hey, Gelton Almeida, before you know, it doesn't have to be something like that. They could find something else, right? Like to plug in there. But having Ngannou on that card would be substantial. Wouldn't quite be like the Amanda Serrano balancing out the ledger with you know, with Jake Paul and Tyson, right? But it would be something that adds a vital piece of that's still very vital in the MMA world right now, and considered by some at least the best heavyweight in the world, right? Like you're still putting him while he's holding that mantle, like you're still putting him on the card.
Ben, I got a question for you. War is a dirty game, and right now Dana White is fighting a war on two fronts, as far as I'm concerned. The MMA side, not as much, but on the boxing side, obviously with Hearn. We have heard that Dana White has absolutely no interest in re-signing Francis Ngannou. He is not a good guy to work with, as we heard earlier on. But if he knew that this event, this Netflix event, the one that is challenging him for the most viewed MMA event of the year, and of course with the White House happening, which we will speak about soon. Don't worry, we already kind of did. But anyway, if he knew that Netflix were going to put him on this card, and he could actually enter the negotiation here and try and pull Francis back, do you think he'd do it?
You know, there's a part of me that says yes, but then I hear Ronda Rousey's voice in my head saying the UFC is not interested in making the biggest fights right now. They're interested in making the most cost-effective fights. And one thing I feel confident of is if Francis Ngannou does fight in MMA next, it will not be cost-effective for whoever gets it. It's going to cost them a lot of money, and they may not make all that money back on that event. So I think that, and honestly, I think that piece would be more likely to be the obstacle than just personal animosity between Dana White and Francis Ngannou. Because especially, Dana White shouldn't go out here and say, we don't want to sign this guy because he's not a good guy and we don't want to be in business with people like that, because you are then asking us to look at the rest of the roster, people you do want to be in business with, and say, so you're saying these are all good guys? Because that's not the business you're in. You're in the business of putting good fighters into exciting fights that people want to see. You are not in the good guy business, so don't pretend that you are. But I think that piece would be way more easily overcome on both sides than the money piece, because especially you can't keep them down on the farm after they fought Tyson Fury for millions and millions of dollars. They're not going to show back up and be like, all right, give me 150K and some of that Venom sponsor money and I'll be happy and ready to go. They're not doing that. He's going to ask for a ton of money. And so I don't think that the UFC looks at their own business model. I also don't think that they're worried enough about competitors at this point to go,
That's a good point.
all right, we got to do this in order to stop them from getting too big and kind of strangle them in the crib. I don't think that they see that at all.
Can you imagine, though? Can you imagine if this is what the UFC rolled out? Like, they're like, okay, we're going to announce our card. We got Francis Ngannou
Dare to
fighting.
dream.
What's that? Yeah, I mean, honestly, so of the expectations or the want, right, of like the big announcement, that would be the only thing that they could possibly do that's outside the range of what we can currently see, right? Like that would blow people's minds, because after all of this of saying like they won't do it for all the reasons you just outlined, Ben, I mean, like that would be like an incredible announcement if they somehow did that.
Remember incredible announcements? Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
What a time it was. No, I don't.
Oh, I thought you were
right
going to read something. All right.
I better check my phone in case I did get one of those.
Make sure
messages.
there's no news, man. We cannot go off script here. What else
Well,
we got, Pete?
We've gotten
I'm sorry. I
a
don't want to
lot
get
of
off.
announcements about announcements.
I know. I saw you.
No event
true.
in history, in combat sports history, has ever had more announcements about when we're going to make the announcement.
Yeah.
For the announcement. We're announcing that the fights will be announced on this later date. Like
Right.
it's endless. I almost wonder when we finally do get the announcement of this White House card, when we finally hear, here are the fights that are on it, the whole thing is set, are we going to feel like a hollowness in the core of
Yes.
our beings, because we'll be like, now what? Now what are we supposed to wait up for?
Right.
What are we looking forward to? What do we have in our lives anymore? Like, we've been built around this
That's
thing
true.
for so long, just speculating months and months of this. When you finally do know, I think we're gonna feel a little bit of a sadness of being like, oh, okay, well, it's over now.
We have to move
Do you
on.
remember
Tomorrow
they
you got
lost-
to put your pants on and do it again, Ben. No matter what, you got to stay strong through this. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Pete's good.
No, but I was just saying, do you remember how visceral the reaction was to people being like,
Yes.
well, you kind of said UFC 300 was going to be amazing.
exactly.
Then you did. He had us black and white on this video and everything. Like, look what this asshole, this media scumbag said that I couldn't deliver the greatest card of all time. You're an idiot.
Well,
You know what I'm like?
He had you on there, Pete. I mean,
You were on there
Your
as
boy.
well.
Oh, was
Chuck,
I?
you were there. Did you
All
get
right.
on, Ben, by the way? Did you get the black and white treatment that time?
I don't think I did. I don't
You
think
need
so.
to aim.
Come
Like
on, you gotta-
he actually cut you off. It should have kept you going there. You were going right towards that
Just say
that
something.
media.
Just say some shit.
Fucking crazy, man. But we do have some breaking news, actually, lads.
Uh-oh.
We've lost a fight on this card tomorrow.
Which one?
We've lost a fight. It's Jung Young Lee. He is not going to fight Gaston Bolanos. I'm sorry, Ben. I know I should have said this to you. I should have sent you a text message beforehand. It's big news. He is off the card. That is the breaking news, lads. You okay, Chuck?
I just need a minute. I'm just kidding. Come on.
Do we know
I
why?
think I'll live.
Where is this going to happen? Like, when is this White House card going to be announced during this broadcast? Is that what we planned, or is he going to do it at the post-fight
CBS
press
portion,
conference?
right? Gotta be. Don't you think?
Or will he just do it at the presser and be like, read it off a phone? Yeah, so we
I
got
swear
Piece
to
of
God,
paper.
if he does
Crumpled
that,
piece of paper. Oh, what do we got?
I'm
Oh,
losing it.
right.
I'm flying to Vegas if he does that. That you can't. Don't do this like it's another one of these Instagram announcements where you feel like you aren't even interested in it. You got to make a big deal out of this. You teased it so long. You built it up. You got to make some kind of a big deal about
You
it.
do.
And I mean, it'll be interesting though to see exactly how and where they decide to make that announcement. Do you act like you're going to do it on the CBS portion and be like, oh, it's going to kick off the Paramount Plus stream.
Exactly. Yeah, we're gonna do the announcement. We're announcing right now. We're gonna do the announcement on Paramount Plus in just a little bit, right? Dude, do you remember how pissed off Ariel got when the piece of paper with the McGregor fight? Like, he's like, I just looked at like a piece of paper that had been torn out of a notebook. Do you remember this? Oh my
He was
God.
furious. Yeah.
It'd be worth it almost to see that again.
I mean, we announced John Jones's retirement from the sport in the middle of the night
I know.
from like
In
Azerbaijan.
I
So
know.
come on.
It is. It's the problem is they build it up so much, and Trump is to blame to some degree here as well, saying like there's going to be 1 million title fights, it's going to have 100,000 people here, all this kind of stuff. But right, if they get Jones and it's Jones Pereira at the top of it. Is everything else pretty much whatever? This is a great fight. This is one of the greatest fighters of all time against a guy chasing, three championships in different divisions. Like, is that enough to whet our appetites?
I think you need more than that, for more than just placating the fans. You need more than that for your own peace of mind. You don't want to lay your head on the pillow every night thinking all the marbles are riding on John Jones showing up, because that was the whole thing. You
That's a good point.
You had said you didn't trust him to be the guy that you put all the hopes on, and so I don't think you want to be in that position. It doesn't seem like the UFC feels that totally confident of that, even if they are willing to give him that fight. I think if you could have that one, if you had Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes ready to rebook in time for that one, that is a legit super fight. That is a fight for like women's MMA GOAT status. And if you could get, if you added Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje, now you got yourself something that'll make us all shut up and be like, okay, you did do it. You did put together a card that matched this level of buildup and anticipation.
I will say that the Kayla Harrison Nunes fight, like, it was just going to be almost buried on that UFC. What was it, 324 or whatever, 5, whatever kicked off the Paramount? This would feel far more appropriate for something like that, where you can give it the proper spotlight. I felt like it was just not going to get the love it deserved on the previous spot.
And it gives you a good chance to do. I know Dana White has said he doesn't want to. He's not trying to do USA versus the world. People are going to read that into it a little bit, though, and this would give you a good chance to have an American champion win a big fight. And if you look around at who's champion and who the contenders are, you don't have endless fights available to you that can fit that bill.
I am prepped for disappointment.
Of course you are.
My body is ready. I am Irish. We tend to. That's how we approach life in general, to be honest. But I have, my body is ready for me to just go, oh, fuck's sake, when I hear what's on the card. You know what I mean? Maybe that's negative. We do have some past experience to draw on here, though, boys.
I don't know. Just like 48 hours ago, you texted me like, oh man, this is like, you said something along the lines of sport is so boring, right? And then all of a sudden, 48 hours later, all this stuff we're talking about, look at you, you're exuberant with what's going on.
A little
here.
Chaos just brings the life back.
I fucking love it.
Little
man.
saga.
I love this shit.
Some soap opera stuff. I like it.
Well, there are some fights on tonight. Tomorrow night. I did say tonight in the document, which New York Rick flagged immediately. Thank you, New York Rick, for flagging that. It is in fact tomorrow that UFC 326 is happening. To anyone who read my notes I sent on the Craic, that is inaccurate. It is happening tomorrow, not tonight. But listen, lads, Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira have made weight for the BMF title fight. Thank God. It is happening. All of the fights are intact. It was just that one I mentioned earlier, Jung Young Lee versus Gaston Bolanos. Again, I'm very sorry, Ben. That is a big bit of news for you to get here today, but it is off the card. Lads, it's two fucking brilliant fighters. Two fighters that we all love. It reminds me of Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier to some degree, where we just love these fucking guys. But I guess going into this, I would like to ask Ben about his piece about Max Holloway adding prestige to the title. You know, there was a lot of naysayers about the BMF. Has he elevated this title? Is it now, in fact, a bona fide title? Should we be like, oh, it's fantastic, the BMF title is here. Why ever did we doubt its power?
You know, I think that it's still clearly not the same as a UFC title. Of, you know, that says this is the best person in this weight class right now at this moment. And it does not say that, but it's also not exactly trying to say that, right? It was always trying to be about a different thing. And it is, I thought, like, helpful to kind of go back and look at how we got there, where like Nate Diaz basically showing up at a press conference and saying, like, I want to fight Jorge Masvidal. I'm not trying to like work my way up the ranks for some title shot. We're going to fight for the baddest mother in the game belt. And, you know, and people grabbed onto that immediately because it did seem like, oh yeah, we're familiar with this as a concept, even if we never put these words to it before, that there are ways to go about a career, you know, if you're trying to climb the ranks, but then there are other ways to go about this kind of career if you're just trying to be a fan favorite, popular fighter. And we like those kind of guys. We do want there to be something that sort of recognizes what they're doing. That kind of fighting style where Justin Gaethje, when he showed up with it, said, hey, look, I know this way. I know I'm not going to have the longest career this way, but this is the way I want to fight because I feel like fans love it and it'll bring me money and glory. And so it is nice to have that kind of belt. The problem was we had that one BMF title fight where it was Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, made a big media push for it. We even got Buffalo Wild Wings to at least claiming that they were going to do the BMF wings. Seemed like a different story when I went down to my local Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's right. Jeez, I forgot about that.
But we did that fight. It was a hit. It successfully gave the UFC some kind of belt you can put on this event when you didn't have one.
Didn't they have The Rock put it around his waist too? Like that
Yes.
was like that. Yeah.
And
Okay.
then you basically put the belt in the closet for the next 4 years. Didn't do anything with it. And we were just kind of went, oh, come on. We thought this was going to be a thing. And then they were sort of like bringing it out when we need it. When we have a fight card where we need something, we don't have one of the legit UFC titles ready to go up for grabs here. Choose two guys, hey, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, you guys busy? Go in here, you fight for the BMF title. And it was just sort of like, it was plugging gaps. But Max Holloway did really change it because he comes in there UFC 300, beats Justin Gaethje with that just unforgettable moment. Still, that'll be one of the ones, I was in the building for that one, and I will never forget just the shock that everyone felt at that moment where he flattened Justin Gaethje at the horn, inviting him to brawl when he knew he didn't have to. Everybody knew he didn't have to. And that was such a huge moment. And then to turn around later and, in a fairly reasonable time span and defend it against Dustin Poirier being the first guy. Because that was the thing that was missing kind of before, was like nobody had defended it. Justin Gaethje tried, lost to Max Holloway. Holloway took it from Gaethje, then defended against Dustin Poirier, now defending it again against Charles Oliveira. They're making smart matchups for what this title is supposed to be. These are the kind of guys where you look at them and be like, yeah, these all seem like the kind of dudes that could be BMF champions as far as we understand that belt to mean. And so it's like Max Holloway really gave you something there, because we hold Max Holloway in this kind of reverence even when he doesn't have a UFC title. We go, he's one of the great. He could stop right now and he's one of the greats.
I mean, you nailed it too, because if you were trying to define, okay, what is the belt about? Because people did this forever. Him pointing to the center of the cage and saying, let's throw down. I know I'm ahead. I don't care. And just doing that at the end and dropping it. I mean, you could not have asked, especially at something like UFC 300, right? Like, you could not have asked for a more definitive, like, okay, this is what it's about, is this kind of thing. So he gave that moment, he gave that kind of definition, I guess, to what the belt is. But it's funny because sometimes I'll hear people like, maybe Benoit Saint Denis, or like they'll mention somebody fighting for this belt. And I'm like, just based on the criteria you laid down, you're like, nah, but that doesn't make any sense towards what this is about. You're starting to change the meaning of what this is about. The one good thing about guys like Charles Oliveira, and I know that it's not like in the written rules, but when you look at, okay, he's fought the who's who. I look back on this man, his first 10 fights, he was 5-4-1. Like, he could have been cut. Like, and remember, he started missing weight a lot. I think most of the headlines around him were fairly negative. They weren't like that he was this guy who at some point, if he gets corrected, he's going to make a run. He did that. So now that you look at his career as a whole and his championship run and how he's able to win over, I think even like Brazil treats him like a hero now. And I think a lot of American fans see him in a whole different light, as more of a superstar in the league. It's that kind of perseverance, and to have all those records against all these UFC records, and you go against Max, who's had all these moments. I mean, 66 combined fights. That's kind of the thing, right? Like you're saying, like, these guys have overcome everything to end up in this spot. And it'll be tough for them to maintain, because not those guys are rare. The guys who can last and have that kind of success and aura about them. But this particular one, man, just like with the Poirier one, like you're mentioning, I feel like it kind of encapsulates what we want it to be, right? And I think that's what makes it fun for this one.
Yeah, and you are right. There's something about the BMF thing where when you hear somebody's name proposed as a potential BMF title fight contender, it's sort of like that old definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. And it's sort of like that, where it's like you'll hear somebody's name and you'll be like, okay, he's a good fighter and everything, but no, that doesn't feel right. He doesn't feel like he meets the criteria.
Yeah.
I can't exactly say to you what the criteria are. I can't explain it and put it into words. But if you suggest somebody, you just sort of like viscerally know, yes or no, whether they belong there.
Yep.
It kind of, you were talking about, the copycat guys who point at the ground. It kind of feels like when you're at the bar, when you're in college, and you go back to the party afterwards, and some lad picks up the guitar and starts the first two chords of Wonderwall, and you're just like, just fuck off. No, listen, man, just put the fucking CD on, okay? I don't give a fuck. All right, and then they'll start playing "Come as You Are," and you're like, "Fuck off!" All right, none of these songs right now, okay? Not you. Put the fucking Spotify. Well, we didn't have it in the 90s. Anyway, yeah. Look, I was making a point. I went off.
No, that's
myself
fine. With the record on or the CD or whatever. Yeah.
Music. Chuck, you asked me in our roundtable if I thought these lads were fighting for something more than the BMF title. Like, could they somehow leapfrog Justin Gaethje, who we were just previously talking about potentially being on this White House card? Like, do you think that's at stake here? Like, if Max Holloway, as we mentioned, that unbelievable moment at UFC 300, he's capable of doing magical things in there. Like, do you think that is possible, or is the fact that Ilya just destroyed these two guys probably rule them out?
I would like to think that it wouldn't rule them. Like, I would like to think that you would go with the guy who has the interim title, just because that is by definition exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to lead to the title fight, right? Like, it's the placeholder. But in today's UFC, man, and considering fan favorites and recency bias and just kind of like the more cinematic idea of what we're doing a lot of times with this sport, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's put it that way. If Max Holloway went in there and delivered another crazy moment, can you imagine? I mean, it's almost like the cult of Max that we've known would just soar through the roof, right? He'd be on a whole different level again. And I think that sometimes, like, he's such a fan favorite that it wouldn't be the right move. But I could see the UFC entertaining something like that. Honestly, though, I mean, like, Justin Gaethje, like, if you're trying to build Ilia Topuria, right? You're trying to actually put him into a place where he's the stratosphere and like he's the guy that everybody's looking at. I think you got to keep your course. Let him handle his business against Gaethje, and then why not have him fight like a guy like Max if he's still there, right? I mean, but that's what I would do. But in today's UFC, man, the way that they don't need to justify, they just kind of like make it, and they're like, "That's a great fight. What are you talking about?" And that's kind of where we end up. And sometimes interim title doesn't really mean anything.
There's been a lack of enthusiasm about the Paramount era so far, really. Like with the card offerings, like, a lot of people are kind of saying, like, it hasn't really knocked our socks off, to put it lightly. Ariel Helwani, speaking about UFC 326 on Wednesday's show, was kind of like, look, I think the buzz is going to pick up on Thursday. Has it been?
I don't know. It's, for me, at least me personally, you get a little more leeway when you're not asking for $80 for every single one of these events. When it's just one price, you get in the door. You take away the pressure on us to ask on a card-by-card basis, is this worth it? Because you've just changed the calculus there financially. So I think that you get a little more rope. But for me, the thing that is really missing right now is I can't recall another time in the modern era of the UFC where we've had so few big fights even lined up.
Yeah.
For this far into a year. We're now into March, and you're looking around at what UFC titles we actually know are going to be up for grabs, and there just isn't much. And now we've been waiting. We've been willing to give you a little bit of room on that because we go, maybe you're announcing a whole bunch of them. You're saving them for this White House card. I still think that is going to create its own issues if that's what you're doing, because it means for months leading up to that, you don't have any other fights, and for months after that, you won't have any other title fights because people will need to be recovering from those fights. But if that is, in fact, what's going on, we'll kind of go, okay. It's not the ideal way to start your new broadcast deal, though, because you haven't had a whole lot of stuff that forces people to be like, all right, damn it, I'll go ahead and I'll sign up for your new streaming service. You just haven't really gotten there in terms of, big fight potential. You've been trying to get there just in terms of, hey, this is where all the fights are now. If you want to watch this stuff every weekend, it is on. You know where to find it.
It's all the more reason, though, like when you talk about that, man, it's all the more reason why this White House card, if it can be in any way, shape, or form, the reason that we haven't had a bunch of excitement of fights buildups around it, or like we can't see the landscape. That's why the pressure, like when you mention this piece of you're preparing yourself, you're preparing yourself because they've never done this. They've never been like, okay, we're putting a bunch of eggs in a basket. We're not talking about what these are yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're gonna like it kind of affects everything around it, and that's huge anticipation. Even UFC 300 didn't approach something like this, where you're like, if you don't come correct with this lineup at this point, kind of putting us in a different kind of position, like looking at your schedule and everything else, it's going to seem underwhelming. You know what I mean? So I feel like they have to come big with this one.
Yeah. There is some interesting fights. Like I'm interested in Barallo and RDR. Purely like more so because of the fall off of RDR, like how high we were on him. Like
Yeah.
Mershard, Holland, Nickel, Whittaker. Then he has an absolute stinker against Brendan Allen. There's no doubt about it. Like it doesn't look like the guy we saw at all. Meanwhile, Barallo's goes and fights Imavov in Paris, which is a very hard thing to do, no doubt about it. But I didn't think he was great that night either. But I feel like opinion is completely fucked when it comes to RDR. Like people are talking about this guy like he's terrible all of a sudden, and you're like, did you not see any of this run? You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know.
Maybe it's just because of some of the awkwardness of his style or whatever. His first fight in the UFC, people are like, "This is the guy you're excited to bring over?
Yeah.
This guy sucks."
That's
And then he
true,
goes
yeah.
on this run, he beats Bo Nickel, he starts to look pretty good, and people go like, "Okay, no, this guy's rad. Next champion, here we go, rocket ship from hell, going straight to the top." And then he has that really bad night against Brendan Allen, and it's right back to, never mind, this dude sucks. It's like he's not getting to enjoy any sort of middle ground at all. This one, though, is super important for him because, honestly, after that Brendan Allen fight, the explanation that he offered, and I was trying to coin a new term in my mailbag this week about when fighters are like, I'm not making excuses, but, and then it's like, everybody else makes excuses, they offer explanations, and so I think we need a word in between, like an excluse or explanation, something
Yeah.
like that.
Like
Fighters love to do
Excluse
that.
is the best. Excluse is fucking fantastic.
But his excluse, I was actually willing to buy to some extent because he was like, look, I was just basically in training camps nonstop all year long, just kept my foot down on the gas, wore myself out. And when I showed up to fight, there just wasn't anything left in the tank. And I screwed that up. And I kind of went, you know what? I could see it. I could see how that might be possible because it did just look bad, just looked like he didn't have a second gear in that fight. But that was what, October? Now you've been off since then. It's March. You're going to show up and people are going to be like, so what now? Are you rested? Are you ready to go? Because you don't get to offer that same excluse twice. Yeah. You got to show up this time. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, no, that was just,
right.
You making stuff up to cover your ass. You're actually not good enough for that next level.
Can you imagine the fight game with no exclusives? Because
so
these
good.
guys are just like, you know what, man, I lost that fight, and I couldn't tell you why.
He's just better than me. Probably always be better than me. I don't know what.
I'm actually not very good at this.
Yeah.
We could run that back 10 times, and I don't see how I'd beat him. I mean,
there are a few
he's pretty good.
phrases that when I hear from a fighter, especially in a post-fight interview or something like that, that make me immediately sit up and be like, okay, this is going to be good. One of the phrases is, especially if a Brazilian fighter says it, in my country we have a saying, and I go, oh, everybody shut up. I want to hear this because it's going to be amazing. It's always incredible especially when the Brazilians have a saying, and you're just like, man, the Brazilians have 1,000 different ways of saying that, shut up or I'll kick your ass. But then the other thing that I always
usually something to do with your mother and a sexual act, though. Let's be honest when it comes to Brazilians.
The other one I love is when a fighter's like, I'm not one to make excuses. You're like, there's a butt coming. There's a butt coming, and we're gonna hear the most amazing excuse. But I was poisoned by room service.
I know
it's gonna be something like that.
I'm gonna be cracking.
You know what the 5 words are that like you just the opposites. You're like, you can stop talking. I don't want to hear anymore. Turns the whole room off. In my other fantasy league. You ever heard anybody do that? You're like, if you're in a fantasy league, like a football league, and then like, in my other fantasy, like, no, dude, I barely want to talk about our fantasy league. So bad.
Anyone else worried for Raul Rosas Jr.? Because I am. And Rob Font is a guy that gets right up there and then he loses. And, everyone's like, oh, Rob Font. They give him the RDR treatment. But you know what he's fucking excellent at? Beating the shit out of prospects. Beating the absolute
you pointed this
shit.
out, yeah.
Right? Adrian Yanez, Kyler Phillips, John Matsumoto. I mean, he does this routinely. And Raul, they really like this fight, right? Like, I think they've tried to make this fight before. And Raul is there, but he's 21. He's clearly a really talented guy. Amazing grappler. But I'm just like, the hands of Rob Font coming at this 21-year-old, it could be a lot. You know, anyone else, or am I just
No,
just
I
very
mean, the
worried?
thing that makes it so tricky for him is that everybody can look at this fight and tell what the UFC is thinking.
Yes.
They are not putting this fight together in an attempt to be in the Rob Font business.
Right.
They This is a fight that they put together
Trying to get Rob Font over.
because we are trying to put
38.
Raul Rosas Jr. in a situation to be successful. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to set him up for a possibility that he could go out there and take another step forward. And so when you do that, and everybody knows, okay, this was a fight made for one guy to win, losing those fights is disastrous. Way more so than when you take two guys who seem to be on the same footing as contenders and up and comers, and you're going, let's see who's the real deal and who's not there yet. You know, you could lose one of those fights and come back from it. This one, but you're right. Like I mean, a 38-year-old like Rob Font in these lighter weight classes, it doesn't always go great for him. That is a big obstacle. But we've seen so many guys, and this was kind of always going to be the danger for Raul Rosas Jr. When you make a guy a thing as a teenager, you put that much spotlight on him, you put that kind of pressure on him as a teenager, you can only give him, I don't want to say easy fights, but hand-picked fights for so long because people are going to be like, hey, you told us this guy was a thing. Is he or not? Put him up against somebody we know, put him up against a test that actually means something to us, or else shut up about him. And so, like, you put that on him so early. 21 is still so young in your career. There's so many guys who go on who don't look great at that age, who go on to have great careers. But you also have seen guys where you kind of out of necessity because of who you told us they are, get overmatched too soon. And it's just more than they're ready for.
We've definitely seen things like that. This is unique in the sense there's a 17-year gap between these guys. Like you said, he's 21 years old. It's so different in that respect. But the times where the UFC is kind of like, all right, we're going to give you an escalation and opponent. And this is going to be the moment that you kind of start to advance more into, name brand opponents where, people are going to be talking about. The greatest one that comes to mind is obviously Peyton Talbot, man, when they fought like Barcelos. And you're thinking, oh, well, I mean, this is strategic. It's a little step up in competition, but this is a guy he should handle. He's something like minus 1,200 favorite to go get it done. And you see what happens, man. Sometimes these dudes take it like a personal affront when you say, and Rob Font would be one of these guys, man, Massachusetts guy. He's going to be one of those guys who's like, so you're telling me that I'm a stepping stone for this guy? And you could see the defiance coming out of him. And I would be surprised if we didn't see him actually go in there and put on a very good performance.
And I mean, as a gentleman of a certain age myself, how do you not cheer for Rob Font a little bit to go put it on this whippersnapper,
Unk. He's going to go in there and do unk work. All right, go ahead.
Don't underestimate the unk strength,
It is. It's 100% what's going to happen. What was I going to say? CBS. Yeah, I don't know. Can you explain this for non-US people? Like, because I'm seeing Kaposa put out like, oh, this fight's going to be the first one of the CBS generation. It's obviously a big deal. Like, I obviously know it's a big network, I guess. But like for non-US people, what is the importance of CBS as opposed to Paramount Plus, lads? Either one of you, please.
I mean, it's just right, Ben. I mean, it's like if you grew up, a gentleman of a certain age, as we're talking, but like if you grew up in the time when there was only 4 stations, like CBS was one of those. So it's like the core of the earth. And I still think that when you can hit any of those broadcast stations that are CBS, NBC, ABC, if you can hit one of those, it's always going to be a big deal. It obviously is it's less a big deal in my mind as time has gone on, but I think that same hallmark still exists, right? Like that it's hitting the center of everything that the center, I guess, of the broadcast world when you're on CBS.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy to find. I mean, first of all, there have been MMA fights on CBS before. Mm-hmm. Like that's, CBS is one of the first networks to get into it back.
Yeah,
they put Kimbo Slice out there on TV in like 2008.
Elite XC?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elite XC.
Mm-hmm. So they're no stranger. That part has happened before, but it is just like the accessibility of it. Everybody can get it. You don't have to know you don't have to sign up for a streaming service. You don't have to know how to hook, like you were talking about, Petesy, going into some pub in Dublin and you're asking a 90-year-old bartender, can you download this app and so we can watch this fight? And he's just like going to be like,
get the fuck out of here.
I'm not doing it, man.
Want an appetizer? What?
Yeah. CBS makes it so that you don't have to. You just turn on the damn TV and there it is.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Fabulous stuff. Any plans in Boston tonight, Ben? What's on the agenda?
Well, obviously, I'm going to the Boston Ballet to see Crystal Pite's Seasons Canon.
Oh
I
my
don't have to
God,
tell
I'm
you
so
guys
jealous.
that.
You get the luckiest ticket in the world. Everybody is trying to get tickets to. Tell me again.
Crystal Pite's
Yes.
the Seasons Canon. I mean, Crystal Pite, obviously one of the goats. So everybody knows that. You're not going to miss an opportunity to see Crystal Pite's work. Just right down the street
refresh
here.
my memory, just for people. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for everybody listening.
Yeah.
Tell our audience. I don't want to get into it. You tell our audience.
I know. You don't have to tell me. But,
I mean, obviously the great Canadian choreographer Crystal Pite.
Oh, of course.
Her name rings out in the streets. And then, just to, since my wife is being such a good sport and going to this with me, then I'm going to go with her to see the Boston Bruins play.
I was just about to say this. I was like, what were you going to do? What would you do if somebody came up to you and was like, hey, man, I got 2 tickets right on the glass for the Boston Bruins tonight. Which one would you choose? But it turns out you're doing both, so you don't need to choose.
Doing both.
Yeah.
And then, we got ourselves an afternoon game over there against the Washington Capitals. We do this a lot where we'll go take trips where we'll see one dance thing, one sports thing. Normally,
Do you feel like you have to level yourself out after the ballet? You're like, we need to go and watch some hockey now.
Yeah, we need to bring our tastes back down. Normally, wherever we are,
you're the other side of the ledger from the culture side of it.
We were in San Francisco, saw a Giants game, and I'm like, I'm going to buy San Francisco Giants merch for that day only. I'm a big fan. Went and saw a Paris Saint-Germain soccer match. Still got the PSG merch. I can't do it in Boston. I refuse to do it in Boston.
Hell no, man.
I already got my Alexander Ovechkin shirt that I bought just to go to this game, come what may. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to go in there and pretend to be a fan of any Boston sports.
Ben's getting in a fist fight. Get over to the Garden tonight, guys.
That's what it takes. That's what we're going to do.
Chuck, we've got a post show tomorrow, mate. We're going to be up through the night, and he'll be off gallivanting, of course. And we'll be here just getting right back in. Oh, and here we go. Here it is. It is the predictions.
I can't see that, but you're going to have to tell me.
I'll read it to you. Don't worry about that. Shaheen sent it to me. I've got it on my personal cell phone right here. Okay, lads. For the main event, has anyone picked against Max Holloway? No, they have not. Has anyone picked against favorite Kyle Barallo in the co-main event? Yes, they have. Ben Fowlkes has. Conor Burks has. Petesy Carroll has. The rest, including the great Chuck Mindenhall, all on the side of
flip the
Barallo.
coin. Yeah.
Well, that's my process too. We just talked about Rosas Jr. Has anyone gone ahead and picked Rob Font with all of this stigma around him being so much older? 2 people have. Conor Burks, once again, making some bold moves towards Mysterious Frank at the top of the table. And also Drake Riggs, last year's champion.
Wait a minute, you didn't? I thought you were guaranteed to pick Rob Font.
Listen, I'm playing a game here. I'm trying to get Mysterious Frank. I'm out for blood.
There are levels. I'm
coming
right now. Yeah.
I'm coming for you, Frank. And then we have the Dober v. Johnson, the Bloodfest, the bloodletting. All Dober apart from Chuck Mindenhall Johnson, Drake Riggs Johnson, and Shaheen Al-Shadi. Bottom of the table. I just want to bring that up. Bottom of the table, Shaheen Al-Shadi, our editor-in-chief. He is currently bottom of the table. Just wanted to highlight that. If you're looking for him up the top there, you won't find him because he's right at the bottom. Next one, we have RoboCop versus Bruno Ferreira. A rematch. But only one person is going for Bruno, and that is Conor Burks, making some bold fucking moves.
Wow.
GC, that is intimidating me a little bit.
That could help him, because that could go either way for sure, man.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Here's the thing. We have to pick a wild card. Everybody's nearly on Johnson, right? Dante Johnson, everybody, apart from Chuck, who has gone with the man's name I cannot pronounce.
Yeah, that's why I chose him. I wanted to hear you say this name.
Barrel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he is an exciting
Mongolian
dude. Yes.
Yeah.
You brought him up in the round table as well.
Yeah.
And Mysterious Frank has gone for the boy who's missed weight. Jung Lee.
Oops.
He has him there. So that's straight away. That's a red mark.
What happens there? How do the
it's a loss.
scoring rules?
It's a loss.
Wow.
It's a loss. I'm calling it as a loss.
If it happens to one of us, though, we'll talk about it. But for him,
yeah,
it's a loss.
obviously, if it happened to us, do it again. But Mysterious Frank, not available, doesn't contribute to text chats during events, nothing like that. That's a loss immediately for me. Lads, we're about to leave. We're about to let Ben go to the ballet, but we need to hear from the beautiful crackheads who have sent some super chats. I think I don't know, Andy. Have they? They have. Come on, crackheads. All right, let's see. Andrew Harbaugh.
Oh my God.
How insane would contract talk with Tito?
I can't even begin to imagine.
Would it be like talking to the Oracle or something where it's just he's saying a bunch of like weird things and you're like, I can't tell even what he's trying to communicate to me. And then 6 months later, something happens and you're like, oh God, he peered into the future.
2 days a week I work out, 6 days a week, 7 days a week.
I can't go past them highlight reels of Tito just talking
cannot
nonsense.
I know.
And I laugh every time as if it's like the first time.
Single fucking time.
Imagine
It's
him
not
in a contract talk. He's going in there. He's like, we won $11 bibbity dollars.
You know the one where he's interviewing
Oh my
Babalu at Strikeforce? It's like the fucking
my
favorite
God.
shit ever. It's just how unbelievable is he at being terrible at talking? He's
The one
of the
where
greatest of all time.
the one where he's like, I never fought for free. I'd never fight for free. And then the guy says something. He's like, I fought for free the first, like at the, right after. He doesn't even like.
He's a fucking legend. He doesn't get enough respect. Any more there, Andy, or was just the Tito? Okay. Connor O'Hanlon, Irishman, fair play. Z8B, just because that's his name. If you are Netflix, all right, so Petesy Carroll is Netflix, would you be any bit keen for a Francis v. Gable?
I did think about this.
Oh, fuck that! Like, I mean, imagine how much more money Gable would get for that. Like, they'd probably do a 1-5 fucking deal. Like, I don't know what they do, but like, Jesus, That's very interesting.
I did think about this.
Did you? That's the first time I've seen it, Connor.
Well, I mean, when Ben was talking
about
about names, I'm like, well, the only guy out there is kind of the very young guy, or the young guy in the sport.
Oh, we should
in a
get to say that,
heartbeat.
Connor.
If you had that available to you, you'd make that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fuck, that is amazing, Connor O'Hanlon. Congratulations, that was fantastic. Do we have anything else?
BT speechless.
Alexander, we can't see the rest of your name. Thank you, though. Responding to AJSBP Super Chat. Petesy Guinness, Eddie Biram or Eddie, Dana Stella. Okay. Oh my God, same answers as Petesy. Thank you, boys. I don't know what the first part meant to that. AGB. Do any of you?
That part seems important. That seems
I don't
important.
know. I have no
Stella
idea.
Stella hasn't. You see, the very funny remark he's made there about Dana drinking Stella because Stella Artois has a nickname in England, and I don't want to.
Please tell me. Come on. You can't just set it up like that.
Well, if you're
Stella-
going for a couple of points of Stella, and again, this is not me saying this. This is our wonderful commenter, Alexander. You would say, what, you write 2 Guinness, and what do you want? I'll have a pint of wife beater. And you'd get him a pint of Stella Artois.
See, I would have never connected any of this, Ben.
No,
I would have been.
yeah.
I would just went to bed without knowing anything.
That was
tonight. I'd been like,
Alexander, not me. I did not say that. I was reading out a comment, and I was
Peter.
simply giving my
All
US friends context. Anything else, Andy? Petesy, if you had to use a beer,
Look at this. All of them are.
Okay. I think we got them out of order here.
Listen, Alexander nailed it. I'm sorry, AJSBP. Okay, he nailed it. He absolutely knocked it out of the park. And thank you for selecting me as Guinness. I'm sorry. Oh, another one. Here we go. CTMMA 808. Dana's Piers denial. Never questions Aspinall's injury. Reality check. Surgery? You mean injections? UFC
Right.
324 presser. 180. Gaslighting the heavyweight champ while Eddie Hearn swoops in. Crack push Dana to own it. JJ v Alex. Let's fucking go. It's a great fight. I'm not going to lie to you. But I mean, of course he fucking shot all over him, Tom. He said crazy shit about him. Like it's
Yeah.
like and you know what? Eddie Hearn keeps saying, like, I feel like there's a pep in Tom's step, like he's going around. I actually saw that as well, like in all these videos and promos, and of course he knows his cameras on him and stuff, but you do get a sense that, like, he's like, I feel like I'm fucking doing something here. I'm with a guy who's like, this guy's fucking class. He is so marketable. He's one of the biggest stars in the UK. Like, that just must feel fucking good to be around if you're Tom Aspinall after going through the last 4 months he had, right?
Yeah.
What did he say? He has lost some of his mojo or something like that, and he's trying to
Getting
catch
it
it back
back.
together. Yeah.
Eddie Hearn's the man you want for that shit. How are we looking at? Oh,
Here we are.
and Evans MMA. Is that a dead hooker in that unmade bed, Ben? Jesus Christ.
Classy. This is a classy guy.
I know she's very much alive.
Nothing less from Man Evans.
Fucking and congratulations on Colin, by the way. 24-inch dubs. Bleed green Tatum.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. That was a basketball reference. Did not.
Basketball,
just
yeah.
went,
Ben, would you go to a basketball game if you could out there, or do you not care?
I don't care about basketball.
All right. That's what I felt. I felt like you'd never talk about basketball.
Christ,
so yeah.
Not at all.
I
can't.
Here's the problem for me. Once I got really into hockey, it made it so that basketball seemed like, in a way, the same thing, but way more tedious. Still, it's like a 5-on-5 kind of thing. We're going back and forth.
Flow to the game. Yeah.
But it's just like, if you get they go down, they score a basket, and you're like, okay, I guess that was good.
You're breaking Chuck's heart. You are breaking Chuck Mindenhall's heart.
You better go down and score a basket again next time. You're supposed to score one basically every time. It's just like...
You do have to, basically, yeah.
You don't need to watch anything except for the last 2 minutes of a basketball game.
Unless you're gambling.
Never fight. It's terrible.
You're not wrong. I mean, there's some problems with basketball sometimes, and you're right. Like, and a lot of teams don't show up until after the All-Star break, so like the whole beginning of the calendar is kind of whatever. They got to fix some things.
You need to sell me on March Madness this year, Chuck. Every year I'm asking you, just send me like a 5-minute voice message, just getting me roiled up for this.
All right, I can do that.
And if I have to gamble, I will. Okay,
you should. I mean,
okay.
There's no reason to watch it if you're not gambling, or at least have like an office pool going.
You got to create your rooting interests,
Well, that sounds good to me. Andy, is that all? That was it. Well, look, thank you for all the super chats, my friends. Thank you for gallivanting, Ben, folks, joining us once again during another vacation. Now rivaling Jordan.
Take care of your dead
hooker. Yeah, Jesus Christ. I'm not referencing this at all. This is Ant Evans and Chuck Mindenhall going completely off the rails. I love you both. Enjoy the fights. Enjoy the White House announcement. We're going to be on the post-fight show immediately after it, but join the boys for the watch-along. It's always absolutely fantastic. So we will see you then. It will be the wee hours of Sunday morning for me, but I'll have every bit of enthusiasm for you because I love you. See you next week.